I get a lot of questions about copper annealing. Some people make this complicated, and I can identify with this because often when I'm learning a new skill, I will overcomplicate. So let's take this step by step. How to anneal, why to anneal, and when to anneal. For annealing, we need a heat source to heat the copper to red hot. When the copper is red hot, this is annealing. For thinner copper, a propane torch will work. Notice that once a section becomes red hot, heating the remainder of the piece goes much faster. This is a good example of copper conducting heat. For slightly heavier copper, here I'm using an acetylene torch. This torch uses atmospheric oxygen. Atmospheric oxygen is the oxygen in the room where you are working, the same oxygen that you are breathing. Once the copper is red hot, I prefer to let it air cool, although some people prefer to quench the copper in water. For thicker or heavier copper, this is an oxygen acetylene torch. The oxygen is almost pure oxygen, and it is being mixed with the acetylene. Acetylene is one of the hottest known gases. You can see how much faster this oxygen acetylene torch heats up this solid 3/8 inch copper rod. So why do we anneal? When copper is worked, as in bending, hammering, shaping, the internal structure of the copper changes. The copper becomes harder, even brittle, and more resistant to forming. The copper becomes stressed. By annealing, which is heating the copper up to red hot, the copper is relaxed, and we can resume working. Any of these examples will harden the copper. When should the copper be annealed? My rule of thumb is when the copper becomes resistant to forming. For example, the hammer or mallet blows are not as effective. It's always better to anneal too soon rather than too late. Now, these are examples of when I waited too late to anneal. I wanted to see just how deep I could make a copper bowl. I waited one hammer blow too late, and the copper fractured. Now, this was a piece of 3/8 inch copper rod, which I forged into this piece of jewelry, or what was going to be a piece of jewelry. You can see right here where the copper just fractured and split. So again, it's always better to anneal too soon rather than too late.